You've probably come across claims from self-proclaimed firearm experts who insist that 9mm is underpowered. Or perhaps you've heard whispers that the military is planning to move away from it. But how accurate are those statements? Is the 9mm really so lacking in performance that the very forces who standardized it are now reconsidering its place in their arsenal? In this video, we'll break down the facts behind this debate, uncover why the military seems dissatisfied with the round, and reveal the surprising twist that everyday gun owners may actually get more out of 9mm than professional soldiers do. Let's start by looking at how the 9mm earned its place. It's widely loved for its mild recoil, generous magazine capacity, and relatively low cost compared to other calibers. But not everyone knows where it all began. First introduced in the early 20th century, the 9mm later became the standard for NATO forces. In the 1980s, the United States military moved from the .45 ACP to the 9mm, adopting the Beretta Mean as its official sidearm. The shift was expected to save money, improve compatibility with allied forces, and make marksmanship easier for a broader range of personnel thanks to the gentler recoil. And for a time, it all seemed to work out as planned. But as new threats emerge and battlefield dynamics shift, so do the demands placed on ammunition. That's where the cracks in the 9mm's reputation begin to show. Military personnel have reported that standard issue 9mm full metal jacket rounds often lack the immediate stopping power needed in combat. These bullets tend to over-penetrate, passing clean through targets without inflicting the kind of damage necessary to end a threat quickly. On the civilian side, shooters can legally carry hollow point rounds like Speer Gold Dot or Federal HST, which expand on impact, increasing energy transfer and minimizing the chance of pass-through. But due to international treaties, military forces are barred from using expanding bullets. This limitation strips the 9mm of many of the advantages it offers to civilian shooters. If you're someone who supports the Second Amendment, chances are you've been part of the debate about which caliber reigns supreme. Many favor the 9mm because, with the right hollow points or cutting-edge copper bullets, its performance is impressive. The difference between full metal jacket and modern self-defense ammo is night and day. So, the obvious question becomes, if civilians benefit from this technology, why can't soldiers? The reason lies in the Hague Convention of 1899, which forbids the use of expanding ammunition in warfare. The goal was to reduce unnecessary suffering, but the rule comes at a cost, particularly for 9mm users in uniform. Overpenetration and insufficient damage are real concerns. And in high-stress environments, this can mean having to fire multiple rounds to stop one threat, especially if the target is wearing layers or body armor. That leaves us with a strange reality. Civilian-loaded 9mm is often more effective than the version carried into battle. This problem has been festering for years. During operations in Iraq and Afghanistan, soldiers often complained about needing multiple shots to neutralize hostile fighters, particularly those amped up on adrenaline or narcotics. While shot placement always matters, bullet design plays a crucial role. That's why frustration is growing. Some in the military are now saying, if we're stuck using watered-down 9mm, maybe we should replace it altogether. It's almost like a bad relationship. If they can't use it the way it was meant to be used, then what's the point of keeping it? Now, let's be clear. The military isn't necessarily calling for a blanket ban on 9mm. What they're pushing for is a gradual transition away from the caliber for service purposes, potentially removing it from future weapons contracts. This isn't an attack on civilian use, nor is it a threat to your ability to carry 9mm for personal defense. It's simply a reaction to the restrictions that leave military users with an inferior version of what should be a highly capable round. But what do you think? Is the military right to be looking for alternatives to the 9mm given its limitations in combat? Or should there be a stronger push to reconsider outdated international agreements that prevent the use of more effective ammunition? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Your input as a Second Amendment supporter matters, and I'm genuinely interested in hearing where you stand. Now, let's take a closer look at how dissatisfaction with the 9mm has played out during real combat situations, particularly throughout the global war on terror. Reports surfaced describing shootouts where troops needed more rounds than expected to stop a threat. In tight urban environments, especially during breaching operations, the risk of a 9mm full metal jacket round passing through a hostile and hitting unintended targets was a serious concern. Meanwhile, in civilian and law enforcement contexts, hollow point bullets are preferred exactly because they expand on impact and remain inside the target, reducing the risk of collateral damage. It's no wonder some soldiers feel shortchanged when they see videos online of hollow points performing flawlessly in ballistic gel tests and ask, why can't we carry those? There have been real incidents where enemies weren't immediately incapacitated, despite being hit by multiple 9mm full metal jackets, an extremely dangerous scenario during high-intensity engagements. Precision is always important. But in the chaos of battle, a reliable stop with fewer shots can mean the difference between life and death. When a sidearm is your backup option, it has to deliver maximum efficiency under pressure. Interestingly, certain elite military units do operate under different rules. Special forces like those under SOCOM are sometimes authorized to use hollow points or even switch calibers entirely. But this flexibility doesn't extend to the average soldier who is typically issued standard 9mm ball rounds and must work within those limitations. So why not just ditch the 9mm altogether and go back to something like the 45 ACP, or perhaps adopt the 40 Smith & Wesson? Those calibers have long histories and plenty of stopping power. However, they come with trade-offs: more recoil, increased weight, and greater logistical complexity. Global supply chains are heavily standardized around the 9mm, and NATO partners use it almost exclusively, so switching could create compatibility headaches across allied forces. Still, conversations are happening about potential alternatives. Rounds like 357 SIG, 10mm auto, or even PDW calibers like 300 Blackout are being floated in some circles. The idea here isn't to throw out 9mm for no reason, it's to find a better option if the military is going to remain restricted to full metal jacket ammo. A faster, heavier projectile might produce more reliable terminal effects, even without expansion. This all fits within a larger trend across armed forces worldwide, an appetite for next-generation gear. Look at the United States Army's Next Generation Squad Weapon program, which centers on the 6.8mm cartridge for improved rifle performance. It reflects an overall effort to raise the bar for firepower. And even though the M17 and 18 pistols currently issued sidearms still use 9mm, their modular platforms could allow caliber conversions down the road if the ammunition equation changes. Yet it's important to remember that in the civilian world, the 9mm is thriving. It's still one of the most popular choices for concealed carry and home defense. The mild recoil makes it easier for fast and accurate follow-up shots, and modern magazine designs offer generous capacity. Pair that with high-end defensive ammo like bonded hollow points or solid copper projectiles, and you're looking at performance that rivals or even surpasses older calibers like 45 ACP. Unlike the military, we're not limited by treaties, so we can unlock the full potential of the round. Which brings us to a point that many people find baffling. Talk of abandoning 9mm seems absurd from the civilian perspective. Most of us see 9mm as a balanced, highly effective self-defense option, as long as we're allowed to use the right kind of ammunition. And that's the key phrase, the right kind of ammunition. That's exactly what military forces are missing. Take the FBI, for example. In the late 1980s, they moved away from 9mm after the infamous Miami shootout, switching to .40 Smith & Wesson due to concerns about stopping power. But after decades of development in bullet technology, they reversed course and returned to 9mm because today's hollow points offer incredible terminal performance. And now, most law enforcement agencies nationwide follow suit, carrying 9mm pistols loaded with highly advanced ammo and getting results. So to many Americans, the logic is clear. Modern 9mm works because of advancements in projectile design, which makes the military's situation all the more frustrating. They're bound by international law to use ammo that strips away the very features that make 9mm so effective in civilian hands. It's like asking someone to compete in a high-speed race with a sports car that's been permanently stuck in second gear. All of these considerations have added fuel to the fire. Behind closed doors, there's growing momentum in some procurement circles to evaluate new calibers that might better meet modern combat needs. At the same time, innovations like red dot optics on handguns are reshaping what sidearms can do on the battlefield. So, while it might not happen tomorrow, it wouldn't be shocking if the Army eventually shifts toward a service pistol chambered in something other than 9mm. Still, that shift won't be easy. Billions of dollars have already been spent on 9mm ammunition, training programs, and gear. And then there's the NATO standardization agreement, which creates a huge hurdle for any sudden changes. So is the 9mm being tossed out of the military overnight? Definitely not. These kinds of transitions take years, even decades. A full-scale replacement would require rearming and retraining the entire force, a massive logistical and financial challenge. That said, we're already seeing a quiet drift away from 9mm in some specialized units. Special forces often have more flexibility. They can sometimes use expanding bullets or switch to compact rifles and submachine guns in larger calibers for close-quarters fighting. Regular troops, however, don't have that luxury. And that's where the frustration is boiling over, with some voices in the ranks essentially saying, "Let's move on." Meanwhile, in the civilian world, 9mm is thriving. It continues to dominate the handgun market for a reason. It offers great capacity, manageable recoil, and outstanding performance with today's defensive ammunition. Walk into any gun shop and you'll see dozens of striker-fired pistols optimized for 9mm. For most people carrying concealed, 9mm remains the go-to. The market reflects this overwhelming demand. It's important to stress. The military's issue with 9mm isn't that the round is useless. Their criticism centers on how it performs under the specific limitations they face, namely, being restricted to full metal jacket ammunition. Without access to expanding rounds, the 9mm loses much of the effectiveness civilians take for granted. Military leadership isn't pushing to outlaw 9mm in the private sector. They're just being realistic. If they can't use the best versions of the round, maybe it's time to adopt something better suited to full metal jacket only combat use. So now that we've laid out the facts, I'd love to hear from you. Does it surprise you that the military, once so committed to 9mm, is rethinking its future? Should they continue investing in improving 9mm ball ammo, or would it make more sense to shift to a different caliber altogether? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. As always, I'm looking at this from a pro-Second Amendment standpoint, and I'd appreciate hearing your take as a fellow supporter of our rights. Let's also address the term that's been tossed around, ban. What the military is actually considering is not a legal ban for civilians, but rather a phase out of 9mm from future procurement cycles. Their combat experience, particularly against enemies wearing body armor, has led them to conclude that full metal jacket 9mm rounds are falling short. Add to that the complexity of urban warfare, tight rooms, thin walls, and civilians in close proximity, and the potential for overpenetration becomes a major liability. These are challenges that civilian defenders using jacketed hollow points are far less likely to encounter. Let's be honest. There's a clear reason why the FBI came back to 9mm after a long hiatus. With modern ammo and proper shot placement, it's a deadly effective combination. But take away the advancements in bullet design, and a lot of that edge disappears. It's as straightforward as that. So now I want to know, if the military were to start from scratch and pick a new standard pistol caliber, what would you choose? And why? Leave a comment below and let me know. Also, if you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like, subscribe, and tap that notification bell so you never miss a future video. Thanks for tuning in.